What is up, everyone? It's your boy again, Kwetlaxochitl. So, what is this plant I'm holding? What is its original name? And most importantly, how do you pronounce it? Café con Nawatl starts right now. So, this plant I'm holding is known by most people as a poinsettia. And what most people don't know is that the poinsettia was named after a guy named Joel Roberts Poinsett. Now, Joel was the first American ambassador sent to the newly formed nation of Mexico after it won its independence from Spain in 1821. His job was to basically get a look at Mexico as a nation and report back to the United States whether he thought that Mexico would be stable as a new country. Unfortunately, Joel was a racist, so he was known for having incredibly anti-indigenous views. And in case you didn't know, Mexico is a largely indigenous nation. So when he reported back to the United States, he said that Mexico would be a successful country just as long as the white Creoles were allowed to remain in power. So he's not really a guy that we should be naming a flower after, especially when this flower or plant comes from Mesoamerica and has its own original name. So what is that name? In Nahuatl, this plant is known as a Kwetlaxochitl. So I'll say that once again, Kwetlaxochitl. And if you have a hard time making the TL sound at the end, you could refer to an earlier episode of Café con Nawatl where I give you a step-by-step guide as how to correctly make the TL sound in Nahuatl. So once more, Kwetlaxochitl. So what does that mean? Interestingly, there are a lot of different opinions on what the true meaning of the word Kwetlaxochitl is. And I'm going to go over two of the most popular. The first is Kwetlaxochitl is, well, we know that xochitl means flower in Nahuatl. So the second part of the name is obvious. What we don't know is what the Kwetla comes from. But one possible explanation is that it comes from Kwetlaxtli, which means leather or leathery. So Kwetlaxochitl would be a leather flower or leathery flower. And when you look at its petals, it's kind of obvious why it would have that name. The other possible explanation is that Kwetlaxochitl is actually a mispronunciation of Kwetlaxochitl, a word made up of xochitl, which is flower, and the first part would come from Kwetlatl, which means excrement. So Kwetlaxochitl would be excrement flower in Nahuatl. And people think that this is a possible definition because there is documentation that this flower was used as a laxative in traditional Mesoamerican healing practices. So Kwetlaxochitl would be excrement flower. Now, which one is correct? Honestly, I don't know. But I do know that if you're trying to pronounce this word, it is Kwetlaxochitl. And remember, in Nahuatl, the TL is its own sound. It's one syllable, not two. And the accent always takes place on the second to last syllable. So, Kwetlaxochitl is the correct way to say it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. My name is Kwetlaxochitl. Tlaskamati Welmiak, Timoitase.